What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the St Vitus basement, first time here in 2020, and we are here with Lee Harrison of the almighty Monstrosity. Thank you for your time, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have you here. You know, Passage of Existence, your latest record, is now 2 years old. What I was curious is, being that, Monstrosity now has like 6, 7 albums at this point, do you still take a new approach to every single album, or do you like to leave fans kind of knowing what to expect in the Monstrosity discography?
Well, I kind of like to leave the tuning the same. That tends to keep it kind of like a familiarity to what we're doing. We do, like on Fragments of Resolution, that was like a drop D thing. And there's a couple other songs that are like that. But for the most part, everything's in D standard. So it's kind of like, it's not too low, but it's not too high either. It's kind of in that middle, old school death metal vibe.
Yeah, D for death metal.
Yeah. So, that's one thing, and then it's just kind of what we feel. We try to, the motto of the band or the formula is pretty much we used to like refer to it as steak and cheese. You want the technical parts and you want that like kind of craziness, but you also want to kind of like have parts that are a little more simple and a little more for the people that aren't musicians to kind of grasp it. And it's kind of what we like. It's not like we're trying to write for somebody, but that's just kind of how we like it. Because, back to what you were talking about with Shawn Reinert, he just passed away today or yesterday, and we just found out about it today. And so it's kind of shocking. And Mark Van Erp, the original bass player, is playing with us tonight. And when I first moved to Miami when I was 17, I met Mark Van Erp, and he was in Cynic at the time, and they were kind of already established going. And so for me, it was kind of an inspiration to like, wow, there's actually people that can, play this kind of music and that are actually doing it and doing it for real. And so that was kind of cool. It's kind of cool, kind of weird that, me and Mark are hanging tonight when this happened. And it's like, it's kind of mind-blowing. It's still not used to the idea, but
If you don't mind me asking, because, I never got to see Shawn play live, but from what I heard, he was just phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
I heard he was also a great human being. As somebody who has, been around him and watched him grow and everything, can you maybe, for some people who weren't privileged enough to meet somebody that talented, maybe tell some cool stories about him or anything?
Yeah, he was real funny. Him and Paul, they were like kind of a duo, they were real funny, and we just, we hung out. We was kind of a little clique, a little group, and it was just, I don't know. When I first came down there, he was kind of like, we were a little closer in playing level, and doing the thrash thing. Cynic was a thrash band at the time. And then kind of a few years later is when he went to New World School of the Arts, and he kind of got like more into the jazz thing and listening to that. And that's kind of when he branched off, whereas I kind of never really got into that so we're Monstrosity, that goes back to the steak and cheese thing where we have like, the technical parts and stuff. We also have the kind of the brutal metal thing, whereas they kind of went off on the jazz thing and totally changed the sound of Cynic, eventually, for Focus. But like if you listen to the demos, they were a thrash band pretty much, and turned kind of almost a death metal band.
Can't pigeonhole them on the periodic table of subgenres.
But his level of playing just skyrocketed when he went, because it was like a high school for music. It was like Fame, but in Miami, and like he would take a math class, and he would have practice for 2 hours, and then have a lesson for an hour, and then he'd go to science or whatever. So he had just all day of playing drums, basically, and it just made his playing skyrocket. And he was just a phenomenal player.
And kind of what I wanted to say, going back to like that whole steak and cheese analogy, because I feel like people who did like Passage of Existence could appreciate Spiritual Apocalypse or Rise to Power, any of those albums. But I'd imagine, because you've worked with a lot of different members of the band, that maybe they brought something new to the table as well, right?
Well, it's kind of 50-50 usually, me with whatever guitar player we're playing with at the time, And to me, like, I don't hear a real difference, you know what I mean? To me, it's all kind of the same, just because I was there through all of it. And my writing, like song like Proselygeist is something I've wrote. Storm Winds off Millennium is something that, that's my song. Slaves and Masters, pretty much my song. So like, there's always like 2 or 3 songs of mine in the albums throughout the year, Imperial Doom, Immense Malignancy, a lot of that stuff's mine,
As a drummer, do you need music before you lay down the beat and the rhythm, or have you like laid that down and the rest of the band would write over that?
In the early days, it was I had a lot of drum beats that I wanted to use, like cymbal catches and stuff like that. Whereas later, some of the later albums, it's kind of guitar first, and.
And I have two more questions for you, but this is going to be my first time seeing Monstrosity live tonight. I'm super excited, and I've always had this discussion with bands that for them, playing live is different from simply songwriting. But I was wondering, being that you're behind the kit for both when you're recording and practicing and songwriting, is there maybe a similar energy in playing live versus like in the studio, or is it a completely separate art altogether?
It's a little different, definitely. With the studio, you can go back and do it again. You mess up, you start over. And with this music, it's like hard enough, even with everything perfect and all the drums set exactly where you want, it's hard enough to play it perfectly or good, close to perfect. So in the live situation, when you're rushed on stage and things are just not the same, like tonight we're playing on a totally different kit. The toms are totally like different from what I would do, and it's one of those things where like I've just grown to like I've made it where I try to adapt to whatever situation I am, where I'm not screwed when I go into somewhere and I can't do what I want. At least I can function a little bit, But it's a different vibe. It's a different, the sound's different. So
it sounded great up there.
Yeah.
So. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about drum gear. I know you said you're not using the normal kit that we would expect. So what is like in the usual Monstrosity arsenal?
Well, I have a Sonar kit. The D-Lights number 710 is my kit. It's like a custom kit. I'm kind of, I'm friends with the guys at D-Drum. They're like 5 miles from my house. And so I've been talking with them they were talking about getting me a kit and doing stuff, and I'm hoping to work with them. So, but, it's one of those things where I'm not too picky. I do, those Sonars are beautiful sounding, I must say. But, D-Drum said they'd hook me up, and they have some good stuff too, so we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah. Sonar is like, because Thomas of Meshuggah uses Sonar, but Ryan from Devin Townsend Project uses it. It feels like Sonar you could play smooth jazz or grindcore on that.
Those the toms really sing. You just throw some new heads on it, and it's just like, man, you can really hear the difference. Because I had a Tama Swing Star kit. It was like they're practically like particle board. It was a horrible kit, but I used that for a lot of my early career just because that's what I had at the time, and I needed money for other things, merchandise and trying to get other stuff. So I ended up playing a really crappy kit. And then I went, was at NAMM and I was talking to Tama guys. I was like, dude, I worked for $3.35 an hour. I saved up for this kit, man. I want to get, I love Tama. I want to get with you guys, man. They kind of blew me off, to be honest. So I kind of got discouraged on them. And I walked, 20 feet away, and Derek Roddy introduced me to the Sonar guys. So that's how I got hooked up with that Sonar kit. I play with Pete Sandoval in Terrorizer, and his drum tech was John McDonald, and he works at D-Drum, so that's how I got involved with them. Plus, like I said, they're like 5 miles from my house, so...
I've always wondered how drummers could be so picky, because in the end, it revolves around keeping rhythm and keeping beat. I was like curious to, how like specific can you get towards drums? Why? Like, I feel like if you appreciate Pearl, you could appreciate Tama, Sonar.
Yeah, there's good and bad in everything, I think. There's always the beginner level stuff that they want to shove out the door for the kids, you know what I mean? That's mass marketed, whatever. And then they have the pro gear, all the companies seem to do that, they have, if you spend a little money, you can get the pro stuff that's killer too, so.
What about the Hello Kitty kit?
Right, yeah, sure,
Yeah, so before we go, I'd like to thank you so much for your time today. Is there just anything else you would like to promote for Monstrosity now that Passage of Existence is going to be 2 years old?
It's that's just it's like 2 years is 2 months in Monstrosity world. So, but I do have at least half of the next album already written, if not a little more at this point. So hopefully it won't take another 11 years to get the next one.
Yeah.
And we got some touring planned for the fall of next year, and I just want to keep going. It's tough, it's a tough business, and. Everybody kind of plays in different projects too, and so it's keeping it together is not always easy, but one way or another we're going to be out here.
11 years since you put out the last. I was in like middle school when the last one came out.
Exactly. So. Normally we take about 4 years. That's like a normal period for Monstrosity. It's just because by the time we here we are waiting. I feel we hadn't even finished touring this one yet, and it's just because you can't just tour constantly, it just doesn't work like that in this business, you burn out the market and nobody shows up to the shows, or there's just not that many tours that that are worthwhile to do. If it's not worthwhile, there's no point in getting out there and not doing it. So. Like I said, so usually 2 years, 3 years is we're still promoting the album. I don't like to just 18-month schedule just to do it.
Not an assembly line.
Right? Yeah, I don't like that a lot. I noticed some bands kind of came like their first albums are real masterpieces, and then they get to a point where they have to kind of like you said, hit the assembly line, and yeah, they gives them an excuse to tour a lot more than us probably, but. I'm about the art.
And no point of touring if the album is not good, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, Lee, thank you so much, and we'll dedicate this interview to Shawn from Cynic and Death. Yep. Oh, yeah. Everybody, Alex from Heavy New York with Lee from Monstrosity. Passage of Existence out on Metal Blade. If you haven't already, pick that up while supplies last forever. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We'll see you next time.